Hey, Dalton.
What?
Knock, knock.
Who's there, Adrian? Every time.
Adrian. Adrian's there. Welcome to Strip Cover Lit. I'm Adrian Fort.
And I'm Dalton Gentry.
And we're here with a review. Dalton, what are we reviewing right now?
Because people got tired of hearing us talk about Fight Club, we did the next best thing. We're going to be reviewing a short story from Chuck Palahniuk.
Yes.
This is Knock Knock.
Yes.
From Make Something Up Stories You Can't Unread.
Yes.
How delightful of a title. So, 3 good things, 3 bad things?
Yeah.
Because we got to say bad things about Chuck Palahniuk. I'm sorry. We're going to have to make it happen.
It's fine.
Tell me some good things.
Well, the first bad thing is that you're ugly.
Oh, ouch.
3 good things. This is very conversational. It puts you to sleep in that way.
Okay.
And there's something very tricky with the language being used, and you can be asleep and willing through it.
Okay.
2, this is a good starter to Palahniuk. It is somewhere right in the middle of the Palahniuk range, right?
I can agree with that.
And 3, I have not read this story before.
That's a good thing.
This is some. I have read this story before, literally. This is not something that I have.
It's very different.
Yes.
Good things.
Thank you.
This is the Chuck Palahniuk gut punch you've been waiting for to start your fucking story.
Yeah.
Start the whole book, punch you right in the stomach. The delivery of this story as a joke is a wonderful writing experience. And by the end of this, you are absolutely uncomfortable just reading it.
Yeah.
Which is pretty commendable to achieve.
Yeah. It's difficult.
Very difficult.
Especially when you know something's a fiction.
Yes. Right? Bad things.
Depending on my mood, this is more snuff Chuck Palahniuk than it is Fight Club Chuck Palahniuk.
Okay.
Right? There's that continuum of any author where there's the piece that worked the least for you and the piece that worked the most for you. I said this is right in the middle, but depending on your my mood, this could be a lot more snuff than Fight Club.
Okay.
All those promises by the title, this really isn't funny, right?
Yeah. This is not Saunders.
And 3, I'm not sure, once you understand who the speaker is, how much meat is really here. You've got 2 characters that are displayed very well. You've got a 3rd character which you intuit things about. But after that, no real themes,
Okay.
if you will.
I think I can agree with that. This is almost too short. You want more from the interactions of the father and son. You're not getting a lot of that, which is inherent of the piece once you've read it.
Yes.
Because there weren't a lot, but you want it. The pie in the face at the end is just so painfully over the top, it's hard to believe.
Right.
And I think it really killed a lot of the piece. And I don't have a lot of emotional investment in most of these characters. I'm indifferent to their interactions. So, does that make sense to you?
I think we can talk about it later.
Okay. So, do you have a favorite quote?
Would you go real quick so I can
I certainly can.
finish taking this note?
My darling dog ate my highlighter, so give me just a moment to find my little squiggle marks. My old lady who abandoned us. He says she hated that joke, and maybe I inherited her lack of humor. But love. I mean, you have to love your old man. I mean, after you're born, it's not like you get a choice. Nobody wants to see their old man breathing out of some tank and going to the hospital to die sky high on morphine, and he's not eating a bite of the red-flavored Jell-O they serve for dinner. I like that. That's very Palahniuk to me.
Yeah, because that's the dark humor,
Yes.
that's the investment, that's the characters all in one little place.
And I will slather just a portion of this. Right one of the last paragraphs. I figure it out. I wasn't telling a joke, I was the joke. I mean, I finally get it. Understand me. A bona fide gold-plated joke is like a Michelob, served ice cold with a Mickey Finn. By somebody smiling so nice you won't never know how bad you've been fucked. And a punchline called a punchline for a very good reason, because punchlines are sugar-coated fists with whipped cream hiding the brass knuckles that sock you right in the kisser, hitting you, pow, right in the face, saying, I am smarter than you, and I am bigger than you, and I call the shots here, buddy boy. Very Palahniuk as well.
Yeah. For my quote, I'm going to start where the piece starts because it's one of my talking points as well.
Okay.
So, a short story collection by Chuck Palahniuk begins with this. My old man, he makes everything into a big joke. What can I say? The old man loves to get a laugh. Growing up, half the time I didn't have a clue what his jokes were about, but I laughed anyways. Down at the barber shop, it didn't matter how many guys my father let take cuts ahead of him in line. He just wanted to sit there all Saturday and crack people up, make folks bust a gut. Getting his hair cut was definitely a low priority. So that's the little snippet that we begin a short story collection from Chuck Palahniuk with.
Okay.
And I think it's very telling because what it does is, this is one of those voices that as soon as you hear that, as soon as you read that on the page, you pull one of these. I'm here, right?
Yeah.
I'm ready to listen. Sit me down, tell me the story, Chuck.
It draws you in.
Yes.
It does. And there's a lot that you can relate to this story. And maybe I'm just saying that through a father and son relationship thing, but there is a lot of things you can relate to. Men cope through humor.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on here in this father-son relationship.
Right.
There's a lot that we're not told that we have to assume. And we can assume that a lot of this relationship is just fueled by coping with humor.
Right, and there's possibly this argument has been made before and by different people, but the first time I heard this argument was from Christopher Hitchens. When he was writing for Vanity Fair, he wrote an article called Women Aren't Funny.
Okay.
And the argument is women aren't funny because they don't have to be funny. Because evolutionarily, the goal is to sleep with as many women as possible, right? Have as many offspring as possible. One of the ways you do that is by making a woman laugh.
Okay.
So women don't have to make men laugh.
So it's a primal genetic thing
Right.
for a man to have to be funny.
So I think that it's strange when you consider that. You've got two real ideas of a masculinity there.
Okay.
Right? It's also masculine to carry around the big stick and be able to hit things harder than anyone else.
Yes.
But this masculine is being able to make people laugh.
Yes.
Right? So where is there a line between the two masculinities? Where does one stop and the other start? Is it possible for both to coexist? Why isn't Sylvester Stallone a comedian?
I'd watch Sylvester Stallone do stand-up. That'd be a treat. That'd be a treat. But you really get a sense from this story that, the father is the funny guy. Because if you want to go with that argument, you got the funny guy and you got the guy who's going to kick everybody's ass, the two archetypes of masculinity. The father's the funny guy. And he's being dropped into a situation where he has no fucking clue what to do with this kid. So he's the funny guy. Mom ran off, it's cool, it's funny. We just talk about her this way, we don't identify her as mom. This is his coping. This is him trying to progress through what the hell am I doing raising this child by myself.
So why did mom leave?
Why did mom leave?
You didn't read anything into that?
That is where I'm saying I'm not getting enough from this interaction. Why did mom leave? I don't know. What are you thinking?
Mom left because dad's abusive.
You think so?
Not just in this humor way. Look at how many small times the narrator slips in something about sexual abuse.
Okay.
Mom was abused. Mom may have known that the son was being abused.
Yeah.
This is a character who's undergone sexual abuse.
I am inclined to agree with you. There's a line here, I'm probably not going to be able to find it, but it's the radio or not.
Yeah.
That's that pinnacle line there that does point to sexual abuse. And there is definitely abuse in this. This short story is about abuse. Mm-hmm. It's about emotional and possibly sexual abuse of this child. Because if you look at the breakdown at the end, that is not normal in the least.
Right. But what you've also got there is many times sexual abuse victims have a stronger love connection with their abuser than victims of strictly physical abuse mm-hmm. or strictly psychological abuse, because there is that touching there,
yes.
right? Because that touching on a primal level communicates care. whereas a striking type of touch strictly does not.
Yes.
Whereas a mentally manipulatable person does not communicate a loving relationship. So oftentimes those victims have a stronger, I mean, this guy doesn't seem like he loves his father. He seems like he can't leave him.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So there's that element there of, sure, maybe it's love, but it seems like a more sinister connection than that. Right? It's that train wreck that you can't look away from. You have to look. When it's that type of abuse, you have to be there. And that's what this feels like.
And, you know, I'm going to go back to the climactic end where the father does pass away from cancer and he's not laughing, and the son is unable to comprehend that. You can tell at that point the emotional abuse is so severe that the son does not know how to react. He has a full-on mental breakdown. It even says he's sent to like 72-hour psych evaluation afterwards because old boy loses his mind.
Does he, though? Is this a reliable narrator? Is that pie in the face real?
Now here's the thing, the pie in the face lost a lot for me because if you read it as real and read it as truth, it's very hard to believe, and it takes a lot away from this story because it's so over the top and it's so ridiculous. However, if you read into the fact that this the narrator could have been extremely abused, and this is his only way of knowing care and love from his father,
Yes.
yeah, he could have brought a pie in there and hit dad in the face with a pie as he died.
Right.
I have to tell this story because, you know, I like to tell the internet that I'm a terrible person, but coping with humor. When my grandmother on my mother's side passed away, I believe I've told you this story before. We were all in the hospital room, her brothers and sisters, my dad, myself, my mother. Very somber time. They're pulling ventilators, things like that. My great aunt's cell phone goes off, and it's James Brown, I Feel Good. It's that, wow, I feel good. I lose it. My father and I lose our fucking mind laughing. Are we the assholes in the situation? Yes. Do we look like we need a psych evaluation in this situation? Yes. However, that's coping through humor.
Right.
So
in reality, your great aunt is the asshole for not turning that fucker on.
Yeah,
silence.
no shit. Who brings James Brown to the the fucking the wake? So I'm a terrible person. That's where that story's going. But that is what makes this relatable to me, because I think there are some relatable aspects to this. If you take the father figure in your life and put him in a situation where he is removed from his previous self, where he is not what he used to be, and you have that hollow shell, the dying man, it's that difficult transition to cope with that.
Sure.
So I think there is a lot of realism in this piece as well, is a lot to counteract the over-the-top pie-in-the-face aspect of it. If I'm getting anywhere with that with you.
No, you are.
I'm used to you just saying, no, you're absolutely fucking wrong, so let me tell you what's right about this.
Well, I mean, I'm growing.
Oh, you're growing?
as a
Oh,
person.
so I get points now because Adrian's growing.
He's wrong.
But I don't know. I'm on the fence with this story. I really am.
And I think that multiple readings is something that this story definitely profits from. Mm-hmm. Especially the first time around, this seems like just a throwaway. It can seem like just a throwaway story.
Okay.
Right? Especially when you say that it's a story from a son talking about his father dying. Right?
Yeah.
Like that seems like we talked recently about The Fault in Our Stars and John Green, and how cancer is such a charged subject that you're not really able to squeeze much out of it that someone hasn't already put in there. Mm-hmm. Right? A father dying is going to be very much that same way, right? Whether your father has died or not, if you know your father, or probably even if you don't, you've had those thoughts. What am I going to do when the old man kicks?
Correct.
Right? So it's hard to squeeze more out than has been put in. But he does that in this, doesn't he? He does this in a strange way. He does this in a novel fashion.
Yes. Which, is endearing of Chuck Palahniuk. This is why we really enjoy his writing. But if you take out the element of abuse and you read this as just the story of a father dying, the son coping,
or like you say, remove the element of abuse. Maybe this narrator is reliable and there's no abuse there. Mom left because she was cheating on him or something.
Yeah, mom left for whatever reason. Take that out of account. Is this just the breakdown of the son trying to remember his father as he was always the funny guy?
Right.
And at that moment where, it's finally the son's turn to take the role of the adult. How does he progress by doing that? He becomes the funny guy. Dad's dying, I got to be the funny guy now because I've got to be there to support him. And that's how he always supported me.
Yeah.
So is it a realistic reading or is it the babbling insanity of an abused child? There's two ways you could really take this, in my opinion.
I think, for me, the mechanism is still the mother leaving.
Okay.
What type of mother leaves her child?
Point.
What type of father gets custody?
Point.
So there's two ways also to read that. Mom was a real dirtbag.
Could be.
And dad's the stand-up guy. Stand up, get it? Or mom just had to get out. Mom just had to get out, left the situation. You know what? I have to live, right? There are those situations. Mm-hmm. It's hard to envision that being the case, but there are those situations.
You did mention, stand-up guy. Haha. However, writing this entire piece as a joke, because that seems what it'd be, because he's always trying to tell a punchline. He's always getting in a joke. Have you heard the one about, the son who's watching the father die from cancer? That is wonderful. We've gotten away from talking about writing and the writership of novels and whatnot and short stories a lot lately. That is a wonderful experience to see something written that way. It fits the piece perfectly. Could you do it in any other situation? I don't think so. But to actually do that and to do it well is absolutely commendable, in my opinion.
Well, and part of the meta moment there is that this is one of the reasons why I don't believe that the narrator is reliable, because he's always saying that he can't get the joke right. But this is a joke. He's always saying that he's not going to remember it right. But guess what? That first paragraph we read, it's right here.
True.
From that first line on, you're looking this narrator straight in the eyes, and you're having that conversation, and he has you.
But the reliability of the narrator, I think, is confirmed at the end when he's having the moment telling the joke in the barbershop, because he is explaining the looks of the expressions of pure terror and horror as he's telling this great joke, how I hit my dying father in the face with a pie. It was hilarious.
Right.
He is aware of how terrible it is. That's reliability.
Right, but let me tell you, I once caught a fish this big.
Okay.
Never happened.
All right.
I once told everyone at my father's favorite place how I stuck it to him at the end. I really did. It never happened.
Okay, but if
that barbershop was this big.
If you're telling the fish story this big, do you say, yeah, nobody believed me, they called my bullshit, and yeah? Or do you say everybody was just so impressed by it? They were so just absolutely impressed.
It's nice to have a good punchline.
I'm just saying, it's very reliable to say, I'm fucking nuts. I hit dying cancer dad in the face with a pie and then told his friends about it.
I'm just saying that it's nice to have the punchline that no one laughed.
Okay.
Isn't it? Isn't that a hell of an ironic punchline? No one laughed.
It is. And they actually go, one of the quotes I read explains, the punchline. To end the story on a bad punchline is pretty awesome. I like it. I like it. And to bring back the radio knot, which, of course, is again alluding to sexual abuse.
Right.
So, anything else you'd like to talk about Knock Knock? Kind of a short story, not much here, only 9 pages long, 8.5 really. Any other points you want to bring up before we give this a rating?
I would like to talk a little bit about one of the things that I don't know that we've ever tackled on this channel. We've talked about who is the narrator. We've talked about is this reliable narrator. We've talked about all of those things. Who's the implied audience here? Because implied audience is another aspect of writing.
Okay.
Right? Who is the implied audience here? Who is he telling this story to?
In my opinion, the way I read it, the implied audience, you're sitting in that barbershop. And maybe that's not like the literal you're sitting in the barbershop, but he's telling this to you. He's trying to get over the joke one more time. He's telling the joke to you as he told it to the people in the barbershop.
Okay.
That's how this reading feels to me.
to me, it seems a bit more. I know that you're not taking that as a literal in the barbershop.
Correct.
But it seems to me more at the bus stop or at the bar. Because
Crazy guy's rambling.
Crazy guy's rambling, and you don't know him.
Same situation. That's what I'm getting at.
You do not know him. But at the barbershop, it's
friendly.
Right?
You know him. It's whatever this guy is. It's his son.
Right.
But no, I agree with you 100% on that. It feels like somebody comes up there like, "Hey, let me tell you a joke."
Yeah.
And this is what you get.
And when you really get into it, that is perhaps the most offsetting part. Like a lot of the interpretations for example, we've done several of the sonnets on the channel, Shakespeare's sonnets. One of the big mysteries is who Mr. W.H. is.
Okay.
That the entire booklet of sonnets was addressed to.
Mm-hmm.
Does that matter? And does it only matter in a criticism scenario versus a reader scenario?
It's a good
because
question.
Sonnet 18, whether it's for a woman or a gay lover or
Correct.
his son, or written for the lord of some area to give to someone, it's still Sonnet 18.
Correct.
But if it was written for a shilling versus written for someone, does that make it feel different as the reader?
I think it does.
So does this feel different when it's not written for the page, it's written for the other guy at the bus stop that you don't know?
For the narrator to address it to you, I think it is more impactful.
Right.
Because, if there was some secondary narration where, maybe the narrator is literally sitting at a bus stop and you're getting dialogue between him and a complete stranger, then you're looking from an outward perspective.
Right.
In this scenario, you are being addressed.
Right, because in the previous scenario you just said that's going to be narrated third person, which is your God watching,
Yes.
right?
It's the same situation. Let's say you're working at Panera Bread and a man comes up to you and says, "Hey, what's fucking good here? I don't understand this menu." You're immediately uncomfortable.
Dalton, you keep going back to this. That is not a real situation.
That is a correct situation.
I did not curse at that girl.
You cursed at that girl.
I did not curse at that girl.
You totally did. But it makes
Give it a rating.
It makes an uncomfortable situation.
I'm uncomfortable.
Rating. Not my favorite Palahniuk.
Son of a bitch.
Not life-changing. 86 pies in the face out of 100.
86 pies in the face out of 100.
Yeah. I wasn't crazy impressed with it.
I gave it 80 pies in the face out of 100. You overshot me.
Ooh, that never
You
happens.
liked it more than I did.
I did like it more than you did.
Maybe you just had a good week.
Maybe so. Or I was so emotionally broken I needed this. Suggestion. Saying Goodbye to Yang, Alexander Weinstein.
Okay.
I've been reading this Children of the New World. If you want to deal with a broken, very odd father-son relationship, that is the one to go with.
Okay. I'm suggesting Sticks by George Saunders.
Okay.
Which I suggested.
Yes.
Yeah, so I think that coupling is one that if I were in college writing papers, that would be the first coupling I was ever tempted to do the compare and contrast paper for.
And that would be a good compare and contrast,
Yeah,
honestly.
because there's a lot of stuff that toys back and forth there that I think is worth exploring and is worth at least comparing via your readership, if nothing else. And that's one of the Sticks is one of the short stories that does not get very much love in the George Saunders collection because it's so short.
Okay.
But I think when you have this palette to compare it to, literature makes literature more rich. Whether there are actual comparisons or inspirations between them or not, there are things, knowing one poem makes another poem better. Regardless of which, like say you rate one poem 50 and another poem 80. Once you read that 80, the 50, because you have more tools, is a more valuable poem.
Okay.
That's why there's an element of scaling, like scaling in AI. The big worry with AI. There's an element of scaling to literature, and I think that's something. Short pieces like this that are very dense with material really help you appreciate.
And this is shorter as well. Like I said, 8.5 pages. Sticks maybe a page and a half.
Yeah.
Just looking back on my notes, because they're here, I gave Sticks 84. So roughly pretty similar. I think you gave Styx higher though.
90.
90?
Yeah.
There's a lot going on in that, but there's a lot going on in here
There's
as well.
a lot going on in here, but Styx is smoother with it.
I think so.
This is very pie in the face.
It is very pie in the face, you clever bastard. So if you like things like this, maybe we'll get back to Palahniuk, see if there's more in this short story collection that's going to redeem it, because that's not a good start, Chuck. It's not a good start.
All right.
I've got a lot of faith in you.
If you have read Knock Knock, make sure you comment below and let Dalton know just how wrong he is. Despite the fact that he gave it a higher rating than me.
You rated it lower.
I am fair despite the fact that Chucky P is one of my favorites. Okay? There's something to be said for that.
Make sure you hit that subscribe button. Give this video a like as well. We always appreciate a like.
Follow us on Twitter at StripCover, on Facebook at StripCoverLit, and on Dalton, tell him the other one. I don't...
Instantgram.
Instantgram.
Strip Cover Lit. Pictures of Adrian.
In towels, maybe.